Have you ever noticed how children in Japan often seem calm, composed, and quietly respectful, even in busy public spaces? On trains, in restaurants, on crowded streets, you rarely hear shouting, tantrums, or chaos. It's not because these children are naturally different, and it's certainly not because they're afraid. The truth runs much deeper than that. It lies in how they are raised, day by day, from their earliest years. Japanese parenting is not built around strict punishment or loud commands. It doesn't revolve around constant rewards or fear-based discipline either. Instead, it follows an older philosophy, one rooted in patience, emotional awareness, and a deep understanding of human behavior. The goal isn't to force obedience, but to cultivate self-control. Not to dominate children, but to guide them gently into becoming responsible members of society. To understand why Japanese children tend to be calmer and more cooperative, we need to look beyond surface-level rules. We need to step into the mindset behind the parenting itself. Let's begin with the foundation that shapes everything else. The first principle is teaching self-control before obedience. In many parts of the world, children are taught to obey first. Follow instructions. Don't question authority. Do as you're told. In Japan, the order is reversed. Before children are expected to obey rules, they are taught how to regulate their emotions. Parents understand that a child who cannot manage frustration, anger, or excitement will struggle to follow rules no matter how strict those rules are. From a young age, Japanese parents focus on helping children recognize their feelings. When a child becomes upset, the parent doesn't immediately scold or punish. Instead, they acknowledge the emotion. They stay calm. They allow the child to cool down. Over time, children learn that emotions are something to understand, not something to explode with. This approach creates children who can pause before reacting. They learn restraint not because they fear consequences, but because they understand themselves. Obedience then becomes natural. A calm child doesn't need to be forced into cooperation. They choose it. The second principle is modeling behavior instead of commanding it. Japanese parents rarely rely on constant verbal instructions. You won't often hear long lectures or repeated shouting. Instead, parents lead quietly through example. They behave the way they expect their children to behave. Respect, patience, politeness, and self-discipline are demonstrated daily. Children observe everything: how parents speak to others, how they react to stress, how they treat strangers. In Japan, parents are deeply aware of this. They know that children learn more from what they see than from what they're told. If a parent speaks calmly, the child learns calmness. If a parent waits patiently, the child learns patience. Commands become unnecessary because behavior is absorbed, naturally. Obedience grows from imitation, not enforcement. Over time, children internalize these behaviors as part of who they are, not something imposed from outside. The third principle is disciplining through social awareness rather than fear. Japanese parenting avoids fear-based discipline. Instead of threats or harsh punishments, parents appeal to a child's sense of responsibility toward others. When a child misbehaves, they are often reminded of how their actions affect the people around them. Rather than saying, "You'll be punished," a parent might say, "How do you think that made others feel?" This gently introduces the idea of accountability within a group. Children begin to understand that behavior has social consequences, not just personal ones. This creates a powerful internal guide. Children don't behave well just to avoid trouble. They behave well because they don't want to disturb harmony or cause discomfort to others. Over time, this sense of social awareness becomes deeply ingrained, shaping calm, considerate behavior long into adulthood. The fourth principle centers on group harmony over individual ego. In Japan, children are raised with the understanding that they are part of a group long before they are encouraged to stand out as individuals. This doesn't mean individuality is crushed. It means it is balanced. From preschool onward, children learn that their actions affect others, and that harmony within a group is something worth protecting. In classrooms, children clean together. They eat together. They help one another. At home, parents reinforce the same idea. A child is gently reminded that shouting, refusing, or acting out doesn't just disrupt them, it disrupts everyone around them. This teaches emotional awareness without confrontation. Because children grow up valuing harmony, they naturally learn to control impulses. Calmness becomes a social skill, not a forced behavior. Obedience in this context isn't submission. It's cooperation. Children comply not because they're told to, but because they want to belong without causing friction. The fifth principle is giving children real responsibility from a young age. Japanese children are trusted early. They are given small but meaningful responsibilities, not as punishment, but as part of daily life. Even very young children are taught to pack their own school bags, serve food, clean up after themselves, and help with household tasks. This responsibility builds confidence and self-discipline. Children feel capable. They feel useful. When a child knows they are trusted, they act more thoughtfully. They don't need constant supervision because they understand expectations. Responsibility also teaches patience. Tasks take time. Mistakes happen. Parents rarely rush in to correct every error. Instead, they allow children to learn through doing. This produces children who are calm, self-reliant, and far less prone to emotional outbursts. The sixth principle is having fewer rules, but enforcing them consistently. Japanese parenting is not rule-heavy. Instead of dozens of changing rules, families tend to focus on a small number of clear expectations. These rules are simple, understood, and rarely debated. What matters most is consistency. When a rule exists, it is followed. Not sometimes. Not when convenient. Always. Children quickly learn where the boundaries are. This removes anxiety. A child who knows what to expect feels secure. There is no constant guessing, no mixed signals. Because the rules are few and stable, parents don't need to repeat themselves endlessly. Children internalize boundaries early, and obedience becomes routine rather than a daily struggle. Calm behavior grows naturally when life feels predictable. The seventh principle is avoiding yelling and emotional outbursts. In many households around the world, raised voices are seen as a normal part of parenting. In Japan, yelling is rare. Parents believe that losing emotional control teaches children the wrong lesson. If an adult cannot stay calm, how can a child be expected to do so? Japanese parents understand that authority does not come from volume. It comes from presence. When correction is needed, it is done quietly and firmly. This creates an atmosphere where children listen, not because they're startled or afraid, but because the tone signals seriousness. Over time, children mirror this emotional restraint. They learn that big emotions do not require big reactions. Calmness becomes the default, and obedience follows naturally because communication is clear and respectful. The eighth principle is teaching patience through waiting and silence. Japanese culture places high value on patience, and this begins in childhood. Children are not constantly entertained or rushed. They learn early that waiting is part of life. Whether it's waiting for food, waiting their turn, or sitting quietly in public, patience is practiced daily. Parents do not feel the need to fill every silence. They allow moments of quiet to exist. This teaches children how to be comfortable without constant stimulation. A child who can sit with silence is less restless, less demanding, and more emotionally balanced. This practice builds inner calm. Children learn that they don't always need immediate satisfaction. Over time, this ability to wait becomes a powerful form of self-control, shaping behavior in subtle but lasting ways. The ninth principle is allowing children to experience natural consequences. Rather than shielding children from every mistake, Japanese parents often allow safe, natural consequences to unfold. If a child forgets something important, they feel the inconvenience. If they rush and make an error, they learn from the outcome. This approach avoids blame and lectures. The lesson is embedded in experience. Children connect actions with results in a way that feels real, not imposed. Responsibility grows naturally because consequences feel fair. By learning through experience rather than punishment, children develop accountability. They become more thoughtful, more cautious, and more independent. Obedience, in this case, isn't enforced. It's earned through understanding. The 10th principle is teaching respect for others and for public behavior. In Japan, children are taught early that how they behave in public matters. Trains, streets, classrooms, and shops are shared spaces, and children learn that their actions can either maintain harmony or disturb it. Parents quietly guide this understanding through daily routines rather than harsh correction. A child learns to lower their voice, to wait their turn, and to be mindful of others, not because they are scolded, but because respect is presented as a normal part of life. This awareness shapes calm behavior that extends beyond the home. Children grow up knowing that good manners are not performative. They are a form of respect for the people around them. The 11th principle is praising effort rather than outcomes. Japanese parents focus less on results and more on persistence. Winning, being first, or being the best is not emphasized as strongly as trying sincerely. When children struggle, they are encouraged to keep going rather than being labeled as failures or successes. This reduces pressure. Children are less anxious and less reactive because their worth isn't tied to performance. They become calmer learners, more resilient, and less likely to rebel against expectations. Obedience becomes easier when children feel supported rather than judged. Effort builds character, and character builds self-discipline. Over time, children internalize the value of consistency and patience rather than chasing praise. The 12th principle is raising children to see themselves as part of society, not the center of it. Perhaps the most defining aspect of Japanese parenting is this: children are not raised to believe the world revolves around them. Instead, they are taught that they belong to something larger, their family, their school, their community. This perspective shapes everything. Children learn humility, responsibility, and empathy. They understand that their actions ripple outward. This creates a deep sense of accountability that doesn't rely on punishment. A child who sees themselves as part of a whole naturally behaves with care. Calmness becomes a social instinct, not a forced rule. So what can we take away from all of this? Japanese parenting doesn't rely on control, fear, or constant correction. It relies on trust, emotional regulation, responsibility, and social awareness. Calm and obedient children are not created through force, but through guidance that begins early and remains consistent. The question is, in a world that often rewards noise, speed, and individual dominance, what would happen if more parents chose calm, patience, and quiet leadership instead? Would our homes feel different? Would our children grow up more grounded, more respectful, more at peace? If this made you reflect on your own upbringing or parenting style, share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. And if you want more deep, culture-based insights like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share the video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.